Hello everyone and welcome. This is just a short video where I would like to share my thoughts with you about what's going on everywhere in the present moment, and especially for students, fellow students of astrology, because it's playing out so directly that it's almost a bit scary. And also, this is where we can see the more minor energies showing themselves very directly out there in physical reality, so to speak. So, more specifically, I'm speaking about the waves of uprising, protests, rebellion almost, of people for different issues in different parts of the world. Of course, the opposite is true as well, where in different parts of the world, some people are standing up for the same issues. So it's like a wave of, the best word to use is uprising here. That's really, really causing like a socio-political earthquake out there, and it's having a lot of side effects that are either already in the present moment affecting all of our lives or are going to be very, very soon. So these aren't really things that we can just wash away, imagine away, block away, magic away, because these are going to impact us because these are massive world events. Saturn being on the world stage, the 0 to 2 degrees of Aries, the world stage, with Neptune, with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, another cardinal sign, 0 degrees of Cancer, again pointing to the world stage. So yes, it's out there. The energy is big. The energy is the storm that all of us knew either from astrology or from our own senses, our gut, whatever. We knew that was approaching and we see it play out. And it's quite scary. And one of the energies that it's so out there and it's linked very directly, both astrologically, but also in a psychological way, especially mass psychological way. Well, that is Chiron, the wound in the sign of Aries. Well, the wound is very, very aggravated. It's almost like salt on wound, regardless of what the theme and the topic is in different parts of the world. And it's quite collective. It's felt very, very collectively. This is made sure by Pluto, especially retrograde, so it turns inwards in the sign of Aquarius, sign of the collective. And so Chiron is the wound. And this wound is almost like a frequency right now because it's activated strongly by planetoid Eris. Very, very powerful. Eris is in power, not that far off from Pluto. So this is where you can see that more and more and more astrologers include Eris in mainstream in the mainstream work, in the framework. She is included along with the big power players because that's how strong and obvious her influence is. The rebellion, the uprising. My wound, your wound is my wound. The frequency of the wound spreading. Everyone feels it, want it or not, like it or not. This is where we can't turn a blind eye because even if we shut off all communication, all news, TV, internet, all of that, even if we would move into Hermit Dome, into the mountain, we would still feel the frequency. We would still in a different way, but know that things are going on and there is severe wounding out there. It doesn't really matter what side of that, in which expression, which country, which conflict, it's there. And Eris with Chiron are greatly energized by a trine with Mars in the sign of Leo. Very powerful Mars, comfortable, strong, brave, fire of the sun, really, Leo. And Mars also rules the sign hosting Eris and Chiron, Aries. So it adds fuel, it adds flame, it adds eventfulness. Well, it's a trine, and well, it's an aspect of flow, of easiness. It empowers, it just gives. But it can empower conflict, unfortunately, Mars. So that's why we see the conflict, the bombing, the theme of the bombing anywhere, even if it's just a tear gas grenade. The bombing, the flames, the anger, the tension is very much out there. Of course, all of this energy is playing out both in philosophy, politics, justice, courts of justice, in within our hearts, but also quite literally in the astral, in the invisible, in the ether. The forces are rebalancing. They're not fighting as we are or as here down on earth, but their friction, they're rebalancing the change of the power ladder or the balance. I'm not sure how to explain it more directly. So I think you understand what I mean. This is where even within a chemical substance, under certain conditions, heat or the opposite, cold, vacuum or not, you know what I mean. These conditions, external conditionings, will cause a different inner balance within the substance, the compound, so it will behave differently. This is exactly how astrology works. The forces change their inner and external dynamics. That means even in the astral, even within the divine, and the divine can be accessed primarily through the philosophical realm. That's how you understand philosophy through philosophy, whatever that means to you personally, of course. You understand the divine and its workings, you interpret it your own way. And this is very relevant because right now, part of this trine, so energizing further, is the moon, full moon in Sagittarius, fellow fire sign. Sorry, and dwarf planet Huya, rain god. So this forms the grand fire trine. So it's literally pouring down with energy, pouring down with event and eventfulness. Uranus reaching an erratic Taurus is creating this shock wave. And Uranus is the other planet associated with Repellion. To add to this, sovereignty, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the principle of sovereignty, the principle of survival, the individual, its rights, its place and role in life, as in the sense that being alive automatically gives any living being certain divine rights that must be respected. So, and this energy clashes with Jupiter, planet of law, justice, faith, that which gives structure to everything, clashes with this energy, a cardinal energy. And Jupiter in Cancer, very powerful, very strong. Cancer family, the land where we belong, our unity, our sense of, family. Ultimately, everyone in our community should be like a family member. So interhuman connection, emotional bonding, sense of belonging. So the rights here, and also Cancer borders, we see this energy clashing very, very strongly. And Saturn in Aries is very militaristic in its way. Always when Saturn was in Aries in any cycle, we would see some military move one way or another on the world stage. So this is part of the picture. But what is all this rebellion and scary reflecting? What is it telling us? What is this energy actually telling us? Because reality is the mirror of the sky, right? Well, because Jupiter is responsible with faith, what we believe in. It squares Neptune. What we believe in needs to be aligned with truth, our own truth. So under these scary moments, everyone asks themselves, "Oh, what is the divine's perspective of this? Why is all of this allowed in this way?" Well, if the reality is the mirror, if the sky is the mirror, our own unconscious Neptune and our own collective emotion, Cancer, Jupiter, Cancer, is a factor, is very important. But many times, even collectively, we are totally blind to what we are even feeling because we live in the mind so much. We live in not real life so much, collectively speaking, all of us. Like career, job, the three the very strong 3D expression side of life, and even the fun and the joy of life being reduced to that sphere, that causes a great imbalance, and none of us are living real life actually. So because of that, the divine needs to reflect back at us what all of us are feeling one way or another. Chiron and Eris together, dancing together. All of us are wounded. All of us feel the wound, the self. We are not enough for society. We are not enough for our own expectations. We are not enough for, perhaps we mistakenly, Neptune, live in the illusion that we are not enough for the divine. And this is where the divine is reflecting back at us that we are definitely enough for it, because it is encouraging us to embrace life, to value life, to take life as the most precious gift worth fighting for, worth sharing, worth protecting, worth invoking the divine itself for. Because everyone takes action Mars with its own power. For some people, the spirit invoking, channeling, calling the spirit into matter is their Mars, is their muscle, strength. Everyone with what they can provide. So that's an option. So what we're actually doing is sharing love, sharing compassion, sharing our own dignity, projecting it onto creation itself. So, in order for us to be aware that this is needed and time for us to up our game, in faith, exactly, Jupiter, the sky is reflecting the wounding, how grave it is, and how, you know, many times alienated to the self, to nature, to our own nature, due to living so much in the mind, in the mental sphere, on the internet, perhaps, this Pluto and Aquarius, how much that alienated us from everything. So that made us, in a way, no longer sensitive to the wound and wounding. Take 2020 and post how the isolation and the quarantines kind of also reflected and consolidated the soul level alienation, where we're no longer good neighbors, we no longer care for each other as much as it's natural to the human spirit. So we collectively, all of us included, are kind of failing being true to our nature. So the sky puts us in quarantine, or it reflects the grave wounding that all of us feel, how lonely all of us feel in a certain way. Neptune, the spirit and the reflection of it, and Jupiter, the planet of philosophy. So the square is showing us this scary reality and the fight, because it is just a reflection of our inner fight, where a part of our being is really, really fighting to show us that we are enough, that we matter, that life is precious, it's valuable. Our dreams, Neptune, our hopes, our higher aspirations are definitely worth living for, worth tolerating what we need to tolerate, the challenges of life, until it can get better. And this is also Saturn, time, right? Square with Jupiter, this is definitely a time is here moment, or enough is enough moment. So this is where karma will start to play out. So thank you everyone for listening. I do hope that this kind of inspired other astrology students as well. Until next time, bye for now.